we're rolling. So this is the first in a while Cleveland Moto Podcast without our humble narrator and leader, Phil.
Sans Phil Waters.
I think we are going to hear from him a little later on from Portland, Oregon. He went out there with Mac to visit Rand. And
that was the sole reason he went out there, was to visit Rand.
Yeah, they're at the one show, but I think
one show, right?
It is the sole reason. I think Rand's pretty bummed that the smelly sewer guy isn't coming, though.
I never heard smelly.
Yeah, it didn't.
I had another one. Drunk, smelly, stupid, grumpy.
His last name is Sewer Guy. But
Sewer guy, yeah. Just add what you want in front of it.
That's right.
So who's here today? To my left today.
Yeah, so it's Chris Smith. And to my left is
Dan Kromke.
Steve Hufford, and I am not drinking tonight. I apologize to everybody for being such a shit show last week. But, that was a good bottle of bourbon.
Yeah,
it was good.
An X bottle of bourbon.
But I take full responsibility for anything.
But if that was your worst night, you're not doing that bad. Nobody's mad at you. It was actually entertaining. So, yeah.
I like it when Michael Fresh gets drunk, though. He's more fun than I am.
You were being pretty affectionate with Fresh too.
I like that.
You're kind of feeling him up there a little bit. But that's okay.
It was okay.
And to his left, Nick DeVito.
And today I'm helping along, and Steve Sleepy Cinch
on the board.
On the board as well. Yeah. So one of the things last week we didn't talk about, and we're supposed to because that's why we got badges to go into the show, was the Cleveland IMS show. So everybody here obviously went to the IMS show, correct?
The wrap up. Yep.
I was sadly disappointed, though.
Were you?
I must say, in general, I was disappointed in the show. Every year it gets smaller.
They moved the curtains in a little bit.
Well, that's what me and Smith were talking about that. Do you think that's what it is? Are they just giving us because it seemed more crowded, but is that what the case? Did they just bring the curtains in?
I think it's they just
BMW
made it more
wasn't
compact.
there, and they're only there, every other year at best.
Right.
And KTM wasn't.
No.
Ducati wasn't there either.
No Triumph.
And did you guys see a lot of? So last year, remember there was all like the Chinese bikes and scooters. I didn't see many of those this year. Did you? Anybody?
I didn't see
those at all.
Royal Enfield might as well not have been there.
No.
Well, hey, wait a minute. Royal Enfield made an effort. They bought a booth. They had half a dozen bikes out there, and they had people ready to talk about their bikes. So that's half a lot better than BMW not even showing up. So
what we're going to do is
that was a kind of a joke.
Yeah, a little bit. Because what we're going to do is when we talk about certain things, I'm going to say we're going to cut. And so then we do have footage of where we shot, where Phil was talking about things that some of you guys were there. So since you brought up Royal Enfield, we'll talk about them. We went up to Royal Enfield and said, hey, man, you guys have an impressive display and everything. We'd like to interview you guys. No. They wouldn't talk to us. That. They wouldn't talk on camera. They wouldn't anything. So Phil, in his ultimate wisdom and awesomeness, was like, turn the camera on. So I turned the camera on. He's like, hey, here we are at Royal Enfield. They have plenty of bikes, but they won't talk about us, so we're not going to talk about them. He just walked away. But I'll show you guys that in a second here. When it was.
And we still talked about them.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. But I mean, we can't really talk about the bikes. We didn't learn anything. There was nothing that we really knew.
Well, a couple of things that I noticed about the show was a number of the Japanese manufacturers brought quads. So it seemed like they filled out their booth with quads, and I think Kawasaki maybe had a jet ski. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting to me that many of the motorcycle manufacturers that may in the past have had 25 motorcycles only had 20. And then if they had 20 in the past, maybe it's down to 15. But they did fill it out with these other products from the manufacturer.
Side-by-sides.
Yeah, and all that kind of stuff. Yep. So I thought, okay, well, they're showing up. They're still doing it. And I'm glad they're still coming to Cleveland because I'll be dipped in shit if I'm going to drive to Pittsburgh or Detroit or something like that for this motorcycle show.
But you'll drive to Detroit for some good Strohs.
I haven't actually made it to Detroit for good Strohs. I just get over the edge of the border into, what is it, in Michigan. Temperance, Michigan. Of all places. I was going to say Speculator, but that's wrong. That's in New York. But
speaking of sites, does anybody know, like, how is Cleveland show compared to the rest of them? Like, are we small?
Chicago's huge. I went to, not last year, but the year before, I was helping with the Zero booth when, I think it was...
Phil.
No, Phil. Yeah, Phil. I can't think he's here for 1 week. He's gone. No. The guy that used to work for Zero. I like that guy.
Ed.
what was it? I'm horrible with names, but whatever. So I said, hey, you need some help in Chicago? Because I had a place to stay. My sister-in-law lives there. So he said, sure, come to Chicago. So I got a press pass for Chicago. I went to Chicago and I worked the booth there. And that show was huge. I mean, it was really good. It was way better than Cleveland. They had, everybody was there. I mean, all the manufacturers were there. Piaggio had a booth as big as the Honda booth here.
So manufacturers can pick and choose. They don't have to sign on for all of them. They can just pick and choose.
I guess so. But
That's kind of shitty.
Yeah,
you know,
I don't
like a
like
little
that.
bit. Like, I'd like to see.
Because who wants to go to Cleveland?
Well, and it's a smaller
Bachelor.
market. I mean, you got
Yeah.
Cleveland, Pittsburgh, I think comes in, Columbus, Cincinnati, maybe
Yeah.
some places in Indiana, and I don't know, maybe up in Michigan too.
Yeah,
but
maybe.
all those towns together are not going to equal the population that you have in the greater Chicago area. So
right.
it makes sense, and
I'm sure
everybody's
the
trying to.
marketing guys do, figure out how, like, maybe we'll do 5 shows this year and we're going to get the most bang out of it.
Well, they got to. I mean, they got
Yeah.
a limited amount of money to spend on this kind of stuff, and so I don't blame them. And as I said, I'm glad they're
blame
still
'em.
coming to Cleveland.
Yeah.
I'm just saying we should go up there though someday. I mean, maybe it would be worthwhile to take a trip up there and go to that show for one day because it is really, it's huge.
When is it? Is it usually before or after?
It's a couple weeks after. I think
Okay.
it's,
Oh, really?
Is there any way we could ride up there in an ambulance?
there's certainly a way to do that.
Hofford has an ambulance that
Yeah.
we could all pile into. He's got litters, and we could just be,
Gurney, so you have to add a couple of an
Yeah.
extra gurney or two.
yeah.
And then if somebody drops, at least put them in the car.
Have a
convenient.
defibrillator and some oxygen.
All right. Well, so I have a list of the stuff that we looked at and we filmed. But before we do that, anyone want to talk about your favorite thing at the show? What you saw that kind of excited you, Mr. Smith?
Well, you know what? I like the vintage booth as the way it was presented. They had a lot of nice bikes there, and I'm a vintage kind of guy, so the amount of square footage for the vintage area I thought was pretty respectable, and it was bigger than a couple of booths, I would say. And looking around at all the vintage bikes, I got to say probably the best vintage bike I saw there was that 1981 Suzuki GS
Of course.
450
That was sweet.
EX.
I heard everybody talking about it.
No, but that's for me to go around and look at the old stuff is fun. The newer stuff is new and it's all shiny and bright and all has a pretty big price tag. So, I like looking at the older stuff.
Yeah.
Well, talking about the vintage area, Skidmark Garage was a pretty big part of that presence. Even though there were 4 separate areas, theirs was probably the most interesting.
They do a good job. Everywhere they go, they usually bring a pretty good display. They're personable guys. I mean, they're doing a good service for our city, too, so it's nice to see them out, definitely.
Yeah, and they did some demonstrations on how to, fix a chain while you're on the road or replace your tire. Or
Who bought a ticket for the raffle bike they're raffling?
I did not.
I did not.
It's a Gilera, right?
Right.
Did you?
Yeah, just one.
Did you win?
They haven't
Or
drawn
they
it
haven't
yet.
drawn it yet?
I think
it's
it
coming
goes,
up,
through, it goes through all the shows, right?
Oh, I have no idea.
no, it's just through Skidmore.
No,
right?
that's just through
Oh,
Skidmark.
through Skidmark.
Right.
Yeah, so
I'm
they're
sorry.
local. They're local.
Yeah,
down
they're drawing that this weekend, right? Yeah.
So, does that mean you can still buy a ticket?
I think you can.
Yeah.
I think you can. I
How
think
much
if you
were
go
they?
to the
They're expensive,
$20
though.
bucks,
20 or
I think,
50
yeah.
bucks or something? Or
$100.
$20.
20 bucks, okay.
$20. But they're only selling a maximum of 300
Only
tickets.
selling
Yes.
3.
5 for $100.
I like those odds.
So Oscar and Sleepy are going to go at it, see if they can get that bike.
Yeah, right?
Let's go to
I
one
think
of
the
them.
proceeds go to their effort to bring back shop classes for high schools.
Yeah, I think, well, they have something like where he posts on Facebook all the time that there's kids showing up at 5:30 in the morning to work because, like, the school doesn't offer the class, but they're going to give them credit. So they're getting there
Oh,
at
that's
5.
pretty cool.
Yeah, they're getting there at 5:30 in the morning, and it's like girls and boys and
I
everything.
saw that. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
a couple of girls' schools. So I think it's an extracurricular.
Yeah, you're
for
right.
the girls to go down there and learn how to wrench on stuff. And
That's
so-
good.
That's awesome, yeah.
It is good because, I mean,
Good for him.
Boys aren't doing it anymore.
Well, but
No one
there'd be
is.
plenty of boys that would want to do it, but most of the high schools have carved out shop classes
Yeah.
and stuff like
and,
that. So
and what a perfect thing to work on, too, because vintage bikes are still not scary. like if you look at a modern bike, if they were trying to do like a new bike, there's more wiring and computers and things that like, more diagnostic tools than wrenches. At least with the old stuff, you could be like, okay, this is how it works. This is the wrench that goes with it. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Keep people
it's
interested.
good and it's bad. I mean, to me, I always worked on vintage stuff, but the new stuff is pretty. I mean, the diagnostics are pretty easy.
It's way better.
I mean, if you ever had so I love Volvos. I've had a ton of Volvos. I had 350,000 miles on my 940.
I had a 740 with 370.
The first one had an OBD1. Where you'd have to take the little cover off and you jumper out the thing and then the light blinks and you write down all your codes and half the time the codes aren't right and it's like it doesn't really tell you much. You plug now I have with OBD2 or CAN, you stick the thing in, you plug it in, you could watch the thing, you watch the engine running and even if it's giving you erroneous data for the sensors, it doesn't matter because you could watch the sensor data and kind of diagnose the engine by just how it's running and by watching manifold pressure and just misfires on the cylinders and everything else. I love it. I mean, I wouldn't want to go back.
I know this isn't the case with this shop class, but it just makes me think like how in school they're learning how to do calculus, but they're not learning how to do taxes and stuff. And it's like, well, here's how you adjust points on a motorcycle. It's like great.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, in case you find one.
Right.
So you know when to take the points off and put a solid state in.
Well, I mean, how many people have done that? I mean, I've done that with all my BMWs. I take it off. I put electronic ignition on it, and with two blacks, so you could adjust the cylinders perfectly. Because of the single set of points, there's a little run out in that cam, and your timing is always off a couple degrees. But when you have the dual block system, you could adjust each block in there for the timing, and you could have your cylinders perfectly in sync. So
there you go, master class.
No, it's not it's just a pet peeve of mine.
Oh, I got you.
You know, the other thing I noticed about the motorcycle show was there's a lot less of the fluffy stuff going on where they're selling dream catchers
right.
and
snake oil,
leather, bra straps and bullshit like that. And they had that smushed into an area, so you could actually walk.
Right, it was easily
circumvent
avoidable.
the whole thing to stay out of it because that gets.
It got ridiculous a couple of years ago. There was like 17 people selling the same leather caps and whatnot. It was
they were selling gutters and windows. And
right.
like all this other crap. Like what the hell?
Well, and there was a guy's plastic surgeon selling tattoo removals.
Yeah,
I remember that 3 or 4 years ago.
That actually makes sense though for some of the guys coming to the bike show. I mean, a little bit like you don't think so?
But as I said, if you want to sell tattoo removals, the place to do that is at a bridal show.
Right next door.
Yeah, because the mom's saying, "Are you sure you want that big fucking tattoo across your back? With this low cut dress, and maybe I'll pay, to have the tattoo removed for you." But at a motorcycle show, everybody's proud of their tattoos. They're saying, "Fuck you, we're not."
Did you ever see the Saturday Night Live when they had the roll on tattoo remover? And
no.
The girl, she was like, "Oh man," she goes, "When I went in college, I went down to San Tropez and I had a crazy weekend and." I have this to remember. It's like 4 bad girls, like woo, like this on her back, and she's like, with this stuff, nobody will ever know of my mistake. And she's a white chick, and she goes, "Come here, kids," and all her kids come in, and they're all black kids because she was hanging out with Dexter down in San Tropez or something. It was pretty funny.
We probably should have walked through the bridal show just to see if that guy was set up over there.
Oh yeah,
he might have been
true.
working both shows.
Yeah.
What was your favorite part of the show? What was your thing that caught your eye?
I don't know. I just kind of hung out all 3 days this time, and I just kind of had fun talking to people over at the vintage booth.
Yep.
If you spent any time at the booth, Phil's Moto Campo drew more attention. If Honda doesn't redo that, if they didn't take note at the show that all these new bikes were in the whole place, and that Moto Campo got more attention than anything in the show.
I had a whole 5-minute speech for that thing.
No, he talked to everybody.
And it didn't seem to matter what the demographic was.
No, young,
everybody was interested.
Was
in
looking
that
at it.
thing.
Well, I just gotta say, when it was just you in the booth, when it was just Chris Smith in the booth, every single time somebody would come by, Chris would come up with a new fictional Honda small city car that this thing came in the trunk of.
Well, and they were buying it, but I said, you know what you're looking at? And that always gets people's attention.
Yep.
And invariably they say no. A couple of people say, oh, yeah, that came in a Honda City.
Yeah, they did.
And I picked up the name of the car from you. I didn't know what it was, but the other thing was, I tell them a little story about that, and how, 50 cc's and 50 pounds and fit in the back, and it's collapsing. And then I'd say it's one of 5 in the United States, because somebody told me that there's only 5 of them in the United States. So, you're standing within 1 of 5 in the United States,
Right.
and you're also within 50 feet of 3 folding motorcycles.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then, so Phil had another one, like a de Blasi.
Yep.
And then over in the one booth from Skidmark, they had another thing that was all folded down into the size of a stool.
Yep.
And so, I mean, people dig on stuff like that, because you can look at.
Marini or something.
I don't know. I don't know what it was.
It was like a hot shot or a whole shot or something.
I don't know.
Shot.
I can tell you, I don't know what it was. But people, when they saw that Moto Campo, a lot of people would stop. Old timers, young kids, and kids with dads and stuff like that. They'd look at that, and then I'd say, and it's the only motorcycle in the whole show that'll fit on a 5-foot table. And so I get a couple of laughs on that, and then I tell them, look how good that 81 Suzuki GS is over there. You want to go and take a photo of that?
I'll be back next year.
Tip your waitresses. And enjoy the harmonica cats coming up next.
Off. What was your?
I don't know. I was just.
I know what it was.
I was having a rough weekend.
I know what your favorite part was.
What?
Down in the Honda booth, there was 3 gallons of Steve Hoffer drool over the
Blue Monkey.
The Blue Monkey.
Yeah.
I like that Blue Monkey, but
Yeah,
I mean
of course you do.
that's mundane to me. I like that Kawasaki W800.
Yeah.
I like the style. I mean, I like the look of it.
The cafe version or the regular
No, the
version?
regular one.
Yeah.
I'm not a cafe person. I think they've destroyed so many Honda 350s, chopping them up. It's a travesty.
The Kawasaki or the Kawasaki Triumph W800.
Yeah, yeah.
From the one side, the motor looks
Yeah.
just like a Triumph
Right.
engine.
Yeah, and that's what I like about it.
They had it
It's a
done up both
Kawasaki.
ways. They had it
Right.
done up like the old Triumph motor look, and they had it done up with the cut fins.
Well, it was like they had the Kawasaki Bonneville and the Kawasaki Thruxton
Yeah.
next to each other.
Right.
True.
Yeah, so I like that, and I mean, other than that, it's just like I said, the show seems small, and I went through the Honda is just like so. It's like nothing that I want them to bring over to the States.
Right.
They bring over. I mean, they brought the monkey, so that's nice. But I mean,
And the
they don't
African
bring the ADV. They didn't bring the CT 125,
Right.
which would be nice.
Yeah. That looks mean. The new one looks so
Yeah,
good.
I wish they would put the 2-speed, like the real low transmission. Like, that would be great if they did that.
They
But
didn't
I
bring
don't
the
think they're gonna do
NM4.
that. And they didn't have an NM4 for Chris. But I still do like the new Goldwing. I mean, that would be a comfortable bike. But like I said, what are you going to do? You're going to spend $20,000 on a bike, and then there's going to be no gas in 10 years. Or, I mean, there will be gas in 10 years, but I mean, it's like you're buying a dinosaur. And if you're not buying a Zero, you're buying a dinosaur, basically, because they're just going to make it more difficult. And like the people like it's just like steam, like how many old timers, hung on to steam when gasoline was coming out.
Oh, no problem. I'll just go down to the coal station.
Right. But I mean, I'm just saying, it's kind of like the gasoline engine is like the steam engine now, and it's going to be electricity. If they could ever break the barrier of like power density or like a small nuclear fission reactor
In the
or
trunk.
fusion reactor
Mr. Fusion.
underneath your
That's what-
underneath your nuts.
That's what we need on a two-wheeled vehicle is
Yeah.
a small nuclear fusion reactor.
We can't trust people to put gas in them most of the time, but they're going to be able to handle a nuclear reactor on the back.
I play a game that you would like.
The first
It's
what?
called Space Engineers, and it's an open world. You design all this stuff. So I was so hesitant. I've been playing it for 300 hours. Okay, so
Okay.
I'm like addicted to this game.
Are you getting your homework done?
So I try to be like the green guy with all the solar panels to make my ship work. Fuck those solar panels. I just started building nuclear reactors. I mean, they're so much easier.
But you just got to stay in the right lane.
Yeah.
Let everybody pass you.
Yeah.
I went down a rabbit hole recently on YouTube, and there's some guy that like plays games wrong, and so companies give him games now, and he's really into all the things like that. Like, I don't know what the games are, but like they're like kind of like sim games where you have to build stuff and set up worlds and things. And so there was one where he set up like, and it's an island, and it's supposed to be like a tourism island, but instead he built like 65 nuclear reactors, and then had all these like, conveyor belts going everywhere, taking the uranium rods to one, and then the waste, and it got to the point like I ended up watching this whole thing, and it was condensed, but it got so bad that he couldn't go on the island anymore. He had to be above it, floating in this thing to add stuff, because when his character went to the island, he radiated to death in like 2 seconds.
I think we should all take comfort in the fact that someday somebody will wheelie the first nuclear reactor.
That's interesting.
Will what
Someday.
the first?
Wheelie.
Wheelie.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming it's going to be, what they're going to do is make cold fusion. They're going to be a size of a, like a baseball or something. It'll be a cold fusion reactor the size of a baseball that'll provide as much power as you need. So, I mean, you're not going to use fissionable material because it doesn't make any sense. So it's going to have to be like heavy water, like H3 or something, I would think. I mean, I think that would be the most logical way to do it.
What about just using wastewater sludge?
People do it right now. They burn it. So
Compress it, and then blow it up.
the problem is that by the time it becomes sludge, it's mostly inert. All the volatiles are out of it, so the energy content is very low. I mean, that's what you're trying to do is reduce the volatile content of it so that it doesn't attract vermin.
Now we have to make a decision if we like Professor Hoff or Drunk Hoff
pathogens.
better.
Yeah, right. I think you need to start drinking.
Nick, what did you see?
Oh, not a whole lot. I was only there for a little bit. I did go Friday and Saturday morning. I was there, and I feel like I saw everything. I'm also disappointed in the fact that it's shrinking every single year. There's less and less manufacturers that show up. There's no Ducati, no BMW, no
KTM?
no KTM, obviously no Piaggio. It was just the big four Japanese manufacturers and Harley-Davidson and Indian.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, my favorite part of the show was the vintage section, because there was oh my god, somebody just died.
Yeah.
He hasn't been drinking, but
He's breaking shit.
He's not coming out of there
No.
Almost killed it.
for the 5th time this week.
Yeah.
So Nick, you said that it's getting smaller and smaller,
Yep.
but the good news is we're paying less and less to get in.
right. I guess next year they're gonna pay us.
Well, no, work on your parking. Go down to $9,
Right.
$8.
That being said, the people that handle the show are great. Like I think the girl's name is Tan or something like that. She
Yeah.
was in contact with Phil all the time and us and everybody. When we got there, I had the camera gear and stuff, and she was like, "Go write that, and when you guys do this, please send us a link. We'll promote it." And
Yeah.
it's like they were really cool, and I think they really appreciate what Phil does by bringing all that stuff because they are super nice to everybody involved with Phil's shop. So that
And how many bikes did he end up bringing? Do we have any idea?
There was a lot.
there was a lot,
Like a dozen?
I
at
think
least
more than a dozen.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably what half of the vintage area, right? Maybe a quarter.
Yeah, no, it's probably half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's providing a pretty good service for the
And that vintage section was about half the size of one of the big manufacturer spots, I think.
Yeah.
It was a pretty big area.
But you know what? So that's interesting. So there was probably as much action at the vintage area as there was at any of the new booths.
Yeah, I mean, the Harley booth was jam-packed.
Well, yeah,
I'll say that.
But they also were taking really a long time assigning, like,
I think that was mostly just Saturday.
Saturday? Okay.
yeah, and they are also doing it kind of like clubs in New York City where they let a few people in and then the rest have to stand there to make sure their booth looks really active. Because they would take, like, when Cam went to sign up for the thing, he went through pretty quick. But I've seen other people stood there for 15 minutes signing some page and getting talked to before they got to sit on and ride the bike or do something. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it was kind of a ploy to make sure they had a line of people and things around there. But, I don't know. I could be wrong.
I think there's games going on. But,
Yeah, definitely games. So some of the things that we looked at, did everybody check out the DR Big that they're calling it, or the new Suzuki V-Strom, the yellow one that Suzuki had? Remember checking that?
Is that what they're going to produce, or did somebody make that?
So they have a new 1050 V-Strom this year, and I think that's a prototype of what they're going, like, it's kind of like the DR Big, the 800 they had. I think that is a concept bike, but they didn't change much from what actually is available with the new V-Strom.
That's what it looked. It looked like a color scheme change and
It had
maybe a couple add-on
It looked like a
bits.
handmade skid plate and stuff on it. So yeah, it was definitely different than the thing, but that was pretty attractive. We definitely filmed some of that. In fact, let's take a look at that right now.
All right, guys, we are running, and we decided our first stop was going to be something that we've all wanted, we've all talked about a lot, and that would be everyone's begging for the Dr. Big. And even though there's not a Dr. Big that exists yet, it's pretty clear that people at Suzuki have listened and they've put together some special project stuff. And this appears to be a special project item with the DID rims and a lot of upgrades that have been done to this particular machine to make that V-twin leader class. So, this is a V-twin that's at 1050 cc's.
And how do we know it's a project bike? Well, we look right here
Yeah.
at the podium. It says it is the V-Strom project
And they
bike.
give us a really good build list, and that's one of the cool things about coming to the IX motorcycle show or any of the IMS shows is when you got something up here on the podium, they tend to tell you what's going on with the bike. And for us who are looking at the idea of, like, wouldn't it be great if we had a Dr. Big, if we had something in that class, leader class. I like V-twins. I always have liked V-twins, and this is a way to get your V-twin adventure dosage without sliding over into the Ducati world or getting into the Aprilia or any of the other exotics. We know that V-Stroms are unkillable. We know that V-Stroms last forever. And here's one that is now dressed for the occasion, if you ask me. So really cool, and I do like the X-Star bodywork. I like the look of the bike. I think it hits a lot of buttons for me personally. I think it's cool, and again, but I am biased towards the V-twin. In this case, V-twins have their reason to be fun. They're torquey as hell. They're a bit of a narrower bike. And when you look at this and you look at their street production models, you can see that this is pretty easy to do. The build sheet on this bike is pretty damn short. So I do like it.
Didn't you have a V-Strom at the shop at one point, the 1000?
So we had
What's your experience riding that?
We had the V-Strom 1000, we had the V-Strom 650, and we had the Versys 1000 and the Versys 650. And that's one of those situations where I said, I liked the V-Strom 1000, I liked the V-Strom 650 more because I just thought it did everything better. And the Versys 650, I like a hell of a lot more than the Versys 1000.
A little more smaller, lighter, nimbler.
I like to say it's a more willing accomplice for hooliganism. Like, the big bike is going to be a big bike. You can't take that away from it. Whereas the 650 that tries harder is always a little more fun.
This is an adventure bike. It's not
Yeah.
a trail bike. I mean, it's big.
Right.
We were talking about the V layout being narrow.
Right.
Well, this is still not very narrow. So
you look at that, and it's got to be 10 inches wider than it needs to be just to hang crash bars and lights on it.
But if you had to ride a bike all the way to Alaska or around the world, and you're going to be spending a lot of time on tarmac and just dirt roads, this is probably the bike for you.
I gotta agree. I think that this one's
Competitor to like
Right.
a GS 1200 or something, that kind of that.
and a hell of a lot narrower than that, and a hell of a lot lighter than that. I know that BMW fanboys are going to hate it, but I like this bike a lot. So,
Japanese reliability. We never can.
and it's going to be cheap to keep on the road, and that's a big part.
It's cheaper to keep her.
It is cheaper to keep her, yeah. So I like this one. Cam, what do you think about this one?
Only thing it's missing is gold anodized wheel rims.
This one really caught my eye, and one of the reasons it caught my eye is just I like the retro angle of it, and I do think that this is something that is more and likely to end up in my garage. So than a lot of the others. We'll see what we come across in other booths.
All right, and so the Dr. Big was cool, and then right next to it was the new Quintana. Did you guys check that out at all, Chris?
I didn't see it.
You didn't see the new Quintana at all?
It was
didn't see it.
They had it last year at the show also, but last year it was up on the pedestal. You couldn't sit on it. This year they had them down on the ground that you can
Yep.
actually sit on them.
And just like I think we talked about it last time, it's a good-looking bike. It kind of holds on to the Katana style, but they just fucked the back end of it up.
Huh.
They took like a nice Katana front, kind of modernized it, and in the back of it, it looked like every dude that's on Craigslist chopped the back end of it.
I thought it
all.
looked pretty sweet.
Come on.
I thought the tail light blended really well into the back of it. I mean, I like vintage bikes where it has a full rear fender and a big long soap bar seat and the tail light and stuff like that. But I think for what it is as a modern kind of edgy looking bike, I think they did a good job.
I mean, it didn't suck, but I think the back of the original Katana was such a definitive part of it that they kind of took that away. So I mean, like, if it was its own bike and it wasn't a recreation of something, yeah, it's fine.
That's true.
But I think because the front is so kind of true to
it does look similar.
Yeah. Did you see the Katana, Steve? That was there, the new Katana.
Yeah, but
It didn't do nothing for you.
you know, like I said, I'm the older I get,
And you're old.
I'm old.
You were born in 64.
Yeah, I'm almost as
crying
old
out.
as you.
Not yet.
Yeah. I'm working on it though.
You're catching up, though, pretty fast.
None of that got you excited, though, huh?
Now, you know what? I think, didn't they say that the first bike you ride is the brand that you like love?
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, I like Hondas, and
I do
pretty
too.
much I can't get excited by a Suzuki that just keeps producing the same bike for like 30 years in a row.
This is new. Aren't you happy for them that they're making something new?
This is the new Coke.
Yeah, the new Coke, yeah.
Once it's not carbureted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's good. They finally fuel injected something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's good. I mean, I think it'll be good because anybody who's owned a Katana knows what a pain in the ass those things were. So.
But we're also talking about not the can of tunas that looked like a plastic, wannabe sport bike. We're talking about the original Katana with the blade to it. But anyways, we did film that, so we'll go ahead and cut to that right now.
So it's moved from the rotating podium down to the actual floor. It's not yet achieved the level where you can sit on it, but it is here and it is down at lower eye level. So this bike is getting closer and closer and closer to availability. It's a love or hate it, man. Just like the original, just like the first Katana, it was a love it or hate it experience. And I do give them incredible props for what they've done with the front end of the bike, hanging into that early 80s look, hanging into that, world's first super sport bike aesthetic, keeping that together in the front end. Unfortunately, I do still agree. I think they lost it all in the back. So I think the back of this motorcycle is not doing the front any favors, but I do love the look of it. And it does look historical to me. When I see this, I can't help but think of the older ones. What's that? Oh, this is the new Katana. So Suzuki's done this now. They've done everything they can do with the GSXR series, and Katana for so many years was plagued with this reputation of being the poor man's GSXR. Well, remember when Katanas first came out, they weren't the poor man's GSXR, they were the GSXR. And this takes it back to that. We're not getting a budget bike here. We're not getting the low dollar economy build of their performance race bike. We're getting a cutting edge, top of the line build on a street machine. Not a track bike, not meant to be a track bike, definitely meant to be a street bike. Look at the handlebars, look at the way it's set up. Certainly not a GSXR track bike, but a very, very cool Katana street bike. And I'm super happy to see it come back. It's really neat. Cam, do you like this one?
I'm really excited about this one. It's got really, really great build quality, which I wasn't necessarily expecting great build quality from the bike. I'm pleasantly surprised. It's at the price point you would expect. Like Phil said, I grew up in an era where, when the original Katanas came out in 81, I believe, that was kind of old news. The Gixxer supplanted it, but nobody does retro-futuristic better than the Japanese, and this is proof of it. This not only looks like a retro-futuristic Katana, but it also looks kind of like its own thing, and at the same time, it also looks like one of the lesser gang members in Akira would have ridden it. But I sat on it, really liked the ergonomics of it, and it's 474 pounds, so by my standards, that is a light bike. But it carries the weight well.
But the one thing, and I guess we kind of have to wait till it spins around to show itself to us, that I really liked, on the venerable GSXR, is the honeycomb little filter that they put over the exhaust here. I don't know if you can zoom in on that cinch, but let's look at this right here. Look at that treatment on that Akrapovic exhaust. That is one of the sexiest exhausts that I've seen.
And, I mean, this is a track bike. This bike was first place at the Red Bull GP of the Americas. So this bike has racetrack props. I mean, this bike has credentials. And when you look at it, you're like, oh, this is an actual machine that came off the track after winning a championship. And it's sitting here so we can examine it, and we can see the differences between a street bike or even a high-end sport bike and the bike that actually gets raced on the track. And I like that. I love when you see an actual ridden track race bike, and you're like, oh, remember that gas tank that we hated so much on the Ducati Supersport 800 because it was right in my gut? Look at that thing.
Look at those big front rotors. They're not drilled. They're not slotted. They're not nothing. They're just big old truck rotors.
Yeah, those are ceramics, and they're going to be the life cycle on the life cycle on those. Those are carbon, actually. Those are carbon brake pads or brake rotors. So the life cycle on those is going to be greatly abbreviated, but they can operate within such a wider range of temperatures and give you so much more stopping. And there's a huge weight savings when you go to a carbon brake.
So basically, you have ceramic brake pads and ceramic rotors.
Yeah.
So ceramic on ceramic.
Right. The whole idea with this is it's weight savings, but extreme performance. So it's really, really neat. I do like the giant spacers there stacked up to move the calipers back as far as they can to get the maximum amount of rotor area. Right. So doing what you can.
Leverage.
Oh, yeah. And I think if they could park those Brembo calipers right against the wheel, they would do it.
I like that little exposed clutch with the carbon fiber cover.
Yep, and if anybody thinks that rear brakes are important, look at how minuscule, tiny, and ridiculous and low-tech the rear brake is on this motorcycle compared to the front brakes. The rear brakes on this thing, they're an absolute afterthought. So that tells you how people who ride for a living and people who race professionally, how much they use their rear brakes. Clearly not much.
All right, let's move over here to these kids' quads.
Oh, hold on. God damn it.
All right, we're back from that. Well, you know.
That's so funny.
The studio audience is eating rice right now.
Yeah. You guys check out Yamaha's booth. You were with us when we did the Yamaha, right?
Yeah.
They had a lot of pretty good presentations this year. They had the new Super Tenere. Well, not Super. It's the T7 Tenere, which
It's the baby Tenere.
Yeah, I was kind of geeked out about.
BT 700.
Was that a high-profile bike then? Because I remember you trying to get your leg over it, and outside of you having that bad hip, I thought you jumped on that pretty easily.
Yeah, no, it was cool. I mean, it was up on a thing. So I think you're
up
thinking
on the center
of,
stand?
Yeah, you were thinking of. I jumped on the FJ or FZ09 or whatever the 09 is.
Okay.
Because that's like the road version of my Super Tenere. This one was the blue one that's more of the dirt bike that was on the riser.
Okay.
That's the
So
one
is that a vertical twin too? Is the 700? I
don't
really.
remember.
I think it is.
It is, yeah, it is.
They didn't put like a Savage engine.
No.
Or like some single cylinder, like big.
No, but they did a lot of things right. Like it seems pretty skinny and narrow, so it actually is more of a dirt bike than a lot of the things they were doing before. All the test riders seem to like it. The suspension's good, but again, it's pretty expensive. It's like $11,000 or $12,000, which I don't have to buy on a bike.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see it in person. We've been waiting for it for so long. It was kind of neat to see, and so we filmed that. So let's take a look at that.
For all the fanboys out there, for all the people on ADV Rider, thanks for banning me. Appreciate that. So cool. We are going to talk about the bike everyone wants to talk about. This is Yamaha Tenere 700. Again, we're seeing that MT-07 stuff. We're seeing this 700cc parallel twin power plant. We're seeing it show up in an extremely well thought out, very well equipped adventure bike. As we all know, Sleepy's got his Super T and loves it to death. Yamaha doesn't make many mistakes in this market, and I don't think they made one here. People are going bananas about this. Now, I got to warn you, though, the trouble with this bike is it says right on here that this is a 2021. Sad trombone noise. So I do love it. I think that everything about the thing is just gorgeous. The Dakar-inspired front windshield assembly. The difference between this and every other Dakar windshield is you can see through this one. That's kind of nice to be able to see what's happening in front of your motorcycle. The biggest, I think they're doing this bike by reservation. So you have to go ahead and ahead of time put your money down or put your commitment in to get these bikes. They're going to do a reservation in, they said, spring. So now whether that calls for April or May, you're going to have to pre-order the machine. And there's a hell of a lot of stuff on this bike. The more you look at the bike, the more your eye picks up items that you would normally be thinking of as an aftermarket item. If what the product that rolls to the customer is this product, I think we're all going to be super happy with the 700cc platform. What you're saving is the weight. You're getting a lot less weight in the machine, and I'll take you around to the back of the bike real quick. On this transmission, the transmission on the machine is actually situated above the crank. So your center, everything stays nice and narrow and tight. So it's kind of an interesting build on the motor. It's a motor we've seen in a lot of the other Yamaha products. It's skinny. I mean, we're going to go back to a bike that's been around for years. We talk about a Versys 650, which is also a parallel twin. We talk about how happy that motor is and how much it likes to rev, and here's Yamaha doing the same thing. A dual overhead cam motor. We've got an 8-valve engine sitting in front of us, and we got a bike that's going to rev real happy. So really, really impressed with it. Again, I think this is an excellent alternative to a 1200cc adventure bike. I think this is going to be something that for a lot of people is going to be a lot lighter, a lot easier to throw around, certainly a lot easier to pick up if you happen to throw it down.
A lot narrower than the V-Strom 1000.
Hell yeah, this is narrower, and that's a big thing to pay attention to. When you think about the idea of riding a motorcycle off-road, you think about the idea of riding a motorcycle up the trail to get to your campsite, yeah, the handlebars can get through the trees, but the bottom of the motorcycle can't. And my preference is not to run the big bags on the bike. I like to keep the bike as narrow as possible, and this is a bike that I think is going to work well for that.
What would you put this up against, like a GS 800 Beamer?
Absolutely. I think this is a KTM 790, the BMW GS 800. I think that's where this bike's in. This is where it's living. It's a serious adventure bike. It's not a misused light touring bike. A lot of the bikes they call adventure bikes are light touring bikes that are being misused off-road. I think this machine is actually a purpose-built off-road motorcycle that can do light touring duty. Kind of cool. I really do like it. I think they've done a hell of a job with it. So,
I'd take that up a well-groomed hill climb.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's a lot of fun. I mean, I can see why they're doing a waiting list to do the bike, because I think, as we all talked about, the energy and the talk on this bike is huge right now. People are fired up. What's that? I don't know. I didn't have a recommended MSRP on the placard, so that's a TBD, man. I guess when you sign up to buy the bike in April or May, they're going to let you hopefully they'll let you know.
Next year.
Right. You can sign up this year. So you can sign up 2020, and they'll deliver the bike. They say they're going to do delivery in 2021. So we'll see. T-dubs, man, T-dubs. The color scheme's great. I love that. The black and tan together. Well, black and tan. Why wouldn't we love that? I should have a freaking Guinness sticker on the front fender, I guess, for that paint scheme. But and we're in the same. We were talking about before. What a challenge this is. The MT-03 is $4,500, and this bike is $4,600.
The Van was $4,600.
Right. So, oh man, in that shootout, I got to buy the MT-03, right?
Right.
I mean, upside down forks. It looks much cooler. It's a cooler bike. But again, why didn't they take this out of the lineup?
200 fuel injected now, or is it still carbureted?
No, this is still carbureted.
The Van is fuel injected.
Whoa, the Van's fuel injected?
Yes, it is.
That gives it a Suzuki built a fuel injected small motorcycle?
Yes, sir.
I didn't think that was possible. This is what shocked looks like. So they got right to the front of the pack.
I stand to be corrected, but I read up on it. I'm pretty sure it was fuel.
Wow, that's super cool. Well, we might end up checking one of those out. So cool, guys.
And we're back. And then
And we're back.
But and then Phil was kind of into, and who else was with us? I think Oscar and everybody. The MT series. So Yamaha brought the MT series, which had like a 125, a 350, or a 400. It was a whole line of the things, all the way up to like a 900. And it used to be like the Tracer 900 or something like that. But it was kind of neat. Like they did a whole series of naked sport bikes that looked kind of affordable, kind of decent. But the weird part was like the 300 had like inverted forks and really nice triple trees and stuff. And then you got up to like the 700 or 6 or whatever the middle size one was, and it was like a bike that they kind of forgot about. Like it had like the cheesy forks, like the 1.5 inch tops to them and stuff. So like the baby one was like all brand new and awesome. The other one was great, and then the middle guy was like, oh yeah, let's pull some parts out of the bit. Yeah, just put it together and whatever. So, but we sat on it. And I think Johnny Mac and Cam got on top of one of those bikes together to make sure that it was buddy compatible. So
Yeah.
we can take a look at that.
So here we are in Yamaha booth, and obviously for anybody who's a big fan of the old Phaser line, anybody who's a big fan of all the street bikes that Yamaha's been doing for ages, this is a really, really hot commodity, the whole line. So we run MT-03s, MT-07s, MT-9s, MT-10s. So every size of Street Fighter. I mean, these are hooligan bikes right from the factory, and they are cool. And for so long, that little 300 class, it was pretty much the R3, and everybody knew that if you were going to build a 300cc bike, it had to be competitive with the R3. The downside was the R3 was very much a committed sport bike. It had a lot of plastic on it. The riding position was set up in a sport bike fashion. When you get into the MTs, the riding position is a lot more fun. It's a lot more upright. It's a true hooligan. It's a true street fighter. These things are fantastic looking, too, if you just want to go on the bike based on the appearance of it. The motors are tried and true. They're bulletproof, and for guys that do love a Street Fighter bike, we've had fun with every single one we have, whether we've had the Phaser, the FZ08. We really dug these things, and I think that Yamaha's done a great job by putting something to the public that is exactly ready to rock. The layout is definitely Street Fighter. So for people who are that pure sport bike kind of guy, it might not appeal to them. But if you are a commuter, if you're the kind of guy that's going to be riding back and forth to work on it, I think it's a viciously good-looking motorcycle. I think they nailed it. And I do think if you're an entry-level rider and you're paying attention to the small, lighter, inexpensive bikes, an MT-03 is going to be something you have to look at. I like its lack of plastic. I like its very much going to get on the bike and ride it kind of attitude. So I'm really excited. You know, we've got a lot of 300s in our world right now, and we're excited to shoot them out against each other. I think first time we can get our hands on an MT-03 and run it against some of the other bikes we've done, you know we're no stranger to putting a big fat guy on a little bike, and this offers a lot of opportunity. I'm really digging on it. How do you feel about the big fat guy in a little bike?
I was just
I'm not joking.
I heard you call for a stunt double there.
And when we got the MT-10, if you can hooligan this weight package,
I mean,
I
this
think
is
they're
not
ready.
a problem.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with this. I think the whole idea behind this as a two-up. Now,
It's
you
not
guys,
bottomed out.
As I've learned
Two
from
up.
every single Japanese video game I've ever played, you guys are now ready to go rob banks and steal cars. Yeah, you got your katana and your 9mm. You're ready to ride. It's pretty cool. So I love the MT stuff. It's cool. What do you think, Cam?
I think it's really cool that I'm a big fan of naked bikes, and I think it's really cool that Yamaha kind of led the charge starting a few years ago on naked bikes not just being a sport bike without fairings, but having their own style. So I've been a really big fan of the MT bikes for that reason.
I think they're fantastic. They do look like space-rated equipment. They look like something that you could be fighting the Empire on.
I like the color and the symbols and stuff like that. It's almost ridiculous how like Star Trek or Star Wars or Star something.
I'd say they've fully committed to the transforming robot theme. Yeah, they have. And so they've taken it to the point where it's like sometimes we joke about a bike looking like a transforming robot. Yamaha clearly went out of their way to make that happen. Cool.
I think it's going to age similarly to the way we love like bikini fairings now. Like in like 20 or 30 years, like these naked bikes that have these really wild futuristic looks. The future's going to look nothing like this, but everybody's going to want this bike in 30 years because of that.
The future's going to be egg-shaped, and what's going to be really super cool is going to be the Hayabusas. They're going to be like, oh, that was so far ahead of its time because it was actual really wind tunnel aerodynamics, whereas this stuff is clearly just... You don't see race bikes with these angles, man. That's just not the way it works, but it is very aesthetically pleasing. If you look at the new R1s, the new design, the face of the R1, Steve, if you can pan to your left real quick and slide down, look at the front end on the R1. It is dead sexy.
The R1M.
Yeah, exactly. This is the M, so yeah, this is your carbon fiber. But if you look at the front end of this, R1s, R6s have always had this amazing beak. The front end of the bike was always dead sexy. The eyes were just staring at you. It was real menacing. And then for the new series, look at this. The front end is insane. This is crazy. It does not look as though there's enough light emitting space here, but underneath these, we've got the projector beams down low, and LED lighting rigs make these bikes so much brighter. And now we are into something that is...
When you see an alien and they have no eyes, there's just a clear face.
It's just a little slit. Yeah, this really does. Yeah, and they do. The front end looks like a Predator, so it's really cool. And then, but we always get a kick out of the completely superfluous wing on the back, where your body would be, of course, in the way of that. yeah, transponder's already on the bike for the M. So, yeah, pretty cool. And, of course, we do have to warn you, the regular bike is at about 17.3, 17.4. Getting into this is $26,000. So, yeah. I did $26,000. But, I mean, this is your race team right here. This is get on the track right now. So, a lot of carbon fiber, a lot of Italian chrome on this bike. Yeah, you're going to pay for that. So, but yeah, super sexy, super cool. But, God, just look at the front end of these things. It's just dead sexy. All right, we're going to go and hit the bar.
And come back. And so then we already talked about Royal Enfield, which they wouldn't talk to us, so that was great.
All right, guys, so here we are. We are Cleveland Motos, again, giving you a feed. Now, interesting thing just happened. This happens from time to time now. We are standing here. I talked to the guys from Royal Enfield North America, and I said, hey, we want to know more about your product. We want to talk to you about your product, know a little bit more what's going on. And they said, can't do it.
Declined.
Hard no, right? Total hard pass. And they said, well, we're not doing that. We're not authorized to talk to you guys about our product. We're not authorized to talk to you guys about our message, our mission statement, what we're selling in our booth.
They probably have people who make a lot of money who are authorized to talk about it, but they're not here right now.
And a big part of that, too, is they're trying to control the message. So right now in today's information-based society, a bad message, the joke is bad gas travels fast in a small town, right? Somebody says the wrong thing, everybody knows about it at the speed of the internet. To protect themselves from that, they're saying, well, we're not talking about that to a television camera. Right, so to a TV camera, they're not going to have that discussion. And I said, well, can we go audio? Do you guys have a problem with doing audio for a podcast? And they said, no, we're not doing that. So no recording devices whatsoever. So I'm going to leave you guys up to your own to figure out whether or not you're interested in Royal Enfield. Moving on.
And then we went to Honda, and you weren't with us, but we were looking at the Blue Cub, and we knew that you were into it. It does look nice, though.
The Blue Cub is not. That's last year's Cub.
The Blue Monkey.
Oh, okay.
The Blue Monkey is
Monkey.
nice. Yeah. And I would like to buy one, just because
And they
that's
would
what
like
I
to sell
started
one
out.
to you.
No, I know, but I mean, they'd like to sell me anything. They'd sell me like their old coffee cups. I don't know.
They'd like to sell all of it to you.
Yeah.
Right, but it was funny because the 3 bikes they had in a row, they had the Africa Twin,
Right.
the Super Cub, and the Monkey, and I own all 3 of those. So.
Speaking of the Africa Twin, did that get a facelift, or did
there's
it
the
look
new,
different?
There's
Or-
two. There's the Africa Twin, and then there's the Africa Twin Adventure Sport.
Right,
And
right.
it-
It was the red, white, and blue with the gold wheels.
Well, they both come in that color scheme, but the Adventure Sport now it's a bigger tank. It's made for touring, and it has turning lights. So instead of the headlights just the headlights in the front, it has a second set underneath that when you turn, it kind of like they project off to the right and left.
Oh,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. You were saying that.
So
Yeah,
you don't fall off the mountain.
exactly.
No, they can find you once you're down at the bottom.
Because they're just like.
But, and again,
Talking about adventure bikes, did anybody check out the adventure bike area? I don't think they were affiliated with any brand of motorcycle.
Oh,
No.
I walked by it. They had like a tent set up or something like
Right.
that.
I mean, I grabbed their flyer, and I can't remember the name of the organization, but there's an organization that has like set rides that are
Yeah,
mostly dirt and gravel roads.
it's the guys that make the maps. It's Butler Maps, and it's they do the BDR or whatever.
Right.
So like they do the TAT, the Transatlantic Trail. They have maps for that. They just finished one last year, which we were supposed to do on mini bikes. That goes from like Pennsylvania down to whatever. So they set up.
Kentucky or
All
Tennessee, something
yeah,
like
that
that.
one's
I'm
like
still love to
1,800
do it on the
miles.
Monkey.
Yeah, I'd love to do it on a small bike. It'd be so much fun because you're not going to kill yourself. You know what I mean?
I tried to go to the adventure booth, but their side cases were so wide I couldn't get into it and talk to anybody.
But that was cool. Like they set up and they have. If you look at the schedule, they had things like how to pack. So they tell you like what you actually need to bring, what you don't, and how to fit it into your Pannier is what makes most sense.
Yeah,
like
that's
like
cool.
don't put your tire iron at the bottom, and your whatever, and don't put your wet weather gear at the very bottom of your Pannier with all your shit on top.
Don't
of
put
it.
anything at the bottom.
Yeah.
Everything goes on top.
Right.
Although
No, you put your weed at the bottom.
And if you're going to Canada, your
Yeah.
firearm, you keep all those
Yeah.
really low in the bag, right?
Now was I mistaken, or did Ural have a display?
They did. They had like 4 or 5 bikes.
And I haven't seen them in a long time. Were they there
They
last
were there
year?
last year.
Were they?
Yeah,
Okay.
they had about the same size display. They had like one little square, but they had like 4 bikes packed in there, and they had all the 2-wheel drive bikes. They're so the
How did
2-wheel
they
drive
have
bikes are
4
so tall.
bikes? Did they stack them?
Wait, did they?
No, they were all like I thought there were 4. Maybe there were only 3.
But were there any
3 or 4.
Were there any
I think you're
there
right.
were 4 or
Yeah,
5.
there were 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
They used their space very well.
But was there any of them there that wasn't two-wheel drive? I think
No,
everyone
they were
there-
all two-wheel drive.
Right. And it's
So-
crazy because there's a giant, like, exposed, like, moose knuckles, like, to drive that other wheel coming off the hub and stuff. It's neat to see.
Yeah, but I would think that it's fixed, though. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do it, you'd have to be in sloppy terrain to even engage that thing. And
'Cause
there's
there's
no
no
viscous, there's
differential.
no anything there.
Did you see the Fortnite, that 4.9 guy or whatever it is, the guy from Canada? He does the reviews on YouTube. He took the two-wheel drive Ural, and went all over the place, and it's amazing what that thing can go through.
Oh, I'm sure it can.
He's like, it doesn't drive straight. It's not comfortable. He's like, it's like the most ridiculous thing you'll ever have, but it will go through anything. And like, he has that thing going up things, down things, through mud, rivers.
I love mine, but I don't want to go any distance. I have the 650. I like that motor. I mean, but it always sounds like you're shaking a box of gravel. So Phil texted me the other day and said that he's going to give me that, not give it to me, whatever. I mean, he's got that bike available for me, and I'm going to transplant that R75 motor in, and I'm going to see if I could transplant it with the swing arm so I have an enclosed drive shaft too.
No, nice.
Okay.
So maybe use the back end of the frame or something of the BMW.
So what's the story? So it was like in the war or something like that, BMW let Ural use their blueprints for the motor, or how did they just steal it, or what
I
was
think
the
they
deal?
probably just
It was
To
after
the-
World War II.
Yeah.
Didn't the Russians go in and just abscond with all the
Right.
with all the blueprints and everything after
So they
Germany
did
was
steal it.
smashed? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
so they just-
Harley-Davidson did the same thing because they produced the W42. Was it the W42? It was a flathead opposed twin. It looked exactly like a BMW.
Yeah.
So
well, to the victor goes the spoils, I guess.
Well, hey, and speaking of Harley, so everybody check out, finally see the live wires there, and they let you ride them on rollers, and like just sitting there, like you couldn't.
I gotta admit, it sounded pretty cool.
Well, it sounded like a
the-
circular saw, not a drill.
I mean, yeah,
They spent a lot of time making it sound, and all
Right.
that money.
it made
for their
a lot of
custom-
noise.
did it clang when it stopped?
No, but so Cam, unfortunately, Cam's not here today. But Cam
To defend himself.
Yeah, right. No, but this was funny because he writes for Harley-Davidson Forum, so it was a big deal for him to get on the LiveWire and ride it. So we filmed it, and he went over and signed up for the deal, and he went and sat on the stationary bike that you could get on and rev and all that stuff. And it was pretty funny to see him. So he gets on it and he revs it, and he just pins the thing, and it sounds like somebody's just like cutting through like a 4x8 or something. It's like, and then he gets off. He enjoyed it. He said it was pretty cool. He said the experience was actually really good. He said it felt like a motorcycle. But the thing that we couldn't get over and we all started laughing at is when you sit on the seat and you turn the bike on, it has a haptic feedback thing underneath the seat that goes boom, 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 to make you feel like you're
Massage
sitting
your
on
prostate.
yeah, to make you feel like you're sitting on a V-twin. And I thought that was pretty crazy.
the
man.
cheesiest thing.
It is, right?
Sound of LiveWire is being ridden in captivity. We're here at the Harley booth, Cleveland Motorcycle Show, IMS show, and as you can see, they've got the Harley set up on the dynos so that you can hop on the bike and you can give it a honk. And here's me violating the first rule of being at the range: never stand in front of a loaded weapon. And here I am standing in front of the firing line, trusting that their rigs are set up to be safe, truly Nerf, while we've got electric motorcycles running right behind me. The setup, yeah. Everybody is extremely excited, and what we've seen is as we've gone from the AIM show in Columbus, they had one of the bikes chained to the floor in captivity. Now we've got two of the bikes chained to the floor in captivity, and we got another one sitting over there that you're allowed to sit on. So very cool, and you know that we're going to do our very best to get our leg over one of these if we can. And I believe they're actually trying to get people on the bikes at this point. So I think Cam's going to go ahead and take one for the team. He's going to go get signed up. Now, apparently, it's not just walk up, stand up, show up, ride the bike. There's going to be an information gathering process, I'm sure. So I see Cam is being relegated over to the iPads of Doom so he can give them his name, social security number, and commitment to purchase one as fast as humanly possible. So, yep. And I believe there's also an orange color. So it's very attractive in orange. What we will do is we'll check back with Cam as soon as he gets his opportunity to get his training and throw his leg over one. They're going to take you through and give you the briefing. The nice thing about Cam going through it is that Cam will be able to report back to us what the training seminar includes.
He's our local HD expert.
He is. He is our local HD expert. Cam Vanderhorst on the HD forums. So there you go. So I'm going to take that back. I originally said it did sound like a drill, but I'm going to take it back. It sounds like a circular saw. And I think that might be the bevel.
So this is the engineered sound that they decided to produce?
Yeah, this was the engineered sound. This is the sound that Harley-Davidson decided was going to carry the idea or the concept of LiveWire to the customer so that you would know from an auditory signature what the Harley LiveWire was when you heard it coming down the road. And again, I'm thinking at this point, circular saw.
Yeah, something like that. It's not quite dentist drill bit, but right. It's like I wouldn't call it something pleasant or I don't know.
It does sound to me like rechargeable circular saw.
Yes.
Yep, and not working, not cutting, but free, just running it.
Well, you know, and that is exactly what's going on here. This is not a dyno. There is no load.
No, there's no load on it. Yeah, no, it's no load.
So you're just revving your drill.
And its response is going to be with. I mean, clearly it's an unloaded wheel. So yeah. Yep. Is Cam's getting ready. We might be getting we'll see if he gets in there. So we got our very own Cameron Vanderhorst from HD Forums. In his capacity at HD Forums, Cameron writes about all the Harley-Davidson products. He's also a Harley-Davidson owner and a guy that represents a younger breed of Harley-Davidson owner too. That's the thing. He's new about it. And when we get Cam here in the shot, fantastic. So you notice we got two fans blowing on these things, and that is a big thing with electric motorcycles. Is cooling is everything. Some of the motorcycles will have supplemental liquid cooling. Zeros do not do that. There are a lot of just radiant cooling, letting the ambient air around the bike cool it. So you can see here, based on these test rigs, they've got the supplemental cooling of these two Lasco fans showing
Being
up.
electric doesn't mean that it doesn't still need to be cooled in some way.
Right.
I mean, energy it equals heat.
Yep, that's exactly right. So that is definitely one of the biggest things about it. All right. The look of concentration on Cam's face as he adjusts the rheostat on the ceiling fan is one for the books. I did just hear the gentleman say that the torque is instant.
Instantaneous.
Instant torque. So it's instant torque. And I'd like to say that we will modify that statement as saying, thank God it's not actually instant torque or it would freaking kill you.
I mean, you can't, it has to still be fly-by-wire, otherwise you're on your ass.
If it was instant torque, it wouldn't be a sales feature. It would be a bad design. Yeah. Yep.
I have a feeling some of that noise might even be coming from the rig that they have it setting on, the rollers and stuff. So it'd be interesting to see the difference between on the rollers and on the street.
Wow. Oh, that was fast.
It was very fast.
Look, his hair's all blown back.
It was wild. It's cool when you turn the bike on. You can actually feel like there's like a little low rumble underneath you on the seat, like they actually put in.
There really?
There really is.
What do you think that costs them in wattage?
It's worth it, whatever it is. I'll be the first to tell you, a Harley is not the fastest bike. It's not the best handling bike. It's never the best bike for the money. It's all about the experience.
The visceral experience.
And they nail the experience.
Did they really?
They really nail the experience. It really does feel like an occasion.
Oh my God.
It feels like a different sort of occasion than a Zero is. A Zero is very purposeful, and I love that about it. But this is very much, it's got the gear noise. It's got that stupid
sensory things that have been added to
the rumble doesn't feel. It's not like they're trying to make it feel like a V-twin underneath you. It's just letting you know that there's something going on electrically, and it's really cool.
Rather than having an auditory rumble, they have more of a haptic feedback.
Yes, haptic feedback. It's a good word.
The haptic feedback generator, as we like to call
Yeah.
it. So do you think that's a Hitachi? Do you think that's a Hitachi haptic feedback unit?
Well, my ex-girlfriend had one that was pretty worn out, so it feels a little stronger than that. So probably a fresh Hitachi.
Probably a fresh Hitachi. Yeah. So he just got a chance to ride the demo unit over there. And so he told me, though, that there was this thing that happens.
When you turn the bike on, there's something happening underneath you.
Yeah, so it's a haptic pulse.
Wait, he said the word haptic too. Bing, 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 bing. John said haptic, and we were like, man, 75-cent word coming out of John's mouth. Yeah. Nice.
So it's really to give the bike a little bit of a heartbeat.
Okay.
So that you know that it's on, and because really with an electric bike, you come to a stop, and it gives you that reassurance. You know, you could feel that it's ready to go.
Wait, you mean you didn't accidentally turn it off?
You didn't accidentally turn it off, or you're in the garage and you forget you enabled propulsion.
Right.
You know, it gives you that little bit so that you don't just like grab a little bit of throttle and unexpectedly
unintended
take
acceleration
off.
incident.
There's plenty of examples of those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's always been a thing with electric motorcycles. You never leave the keys anywhere near them because there's no warning to let you know that one's about to go through the drywall.
Yeah.
So you guys go, get the key out of that thing and hide it so nobody surprises us with sudden acceleration. Yeah. Can I feel that feeling of getting on the bike and turning it on?
We actually
Or is this one permanently on?
This one is only the display is
on.
So only the ones on the LiveWire have what's called propulsion enabled, so that you can actually put the motor
So
into
this is in
drive.
safe mode to make sure nobody here in the booth has an unintended acceleration incident.
So we've disabled propulsion so that we can show off...
Sorry, dude.
No problem. So that we can show off the HD Connect service.
Yeah.
So we can show both the cellular connectivity that's powered with the bike, so when you're away from the bike, you're charging... You know, a lot of, like Electrify America will charge you more once the bike's done charging to be parked than while it's charging. So you want to know, so we send you alerts when it's nearly complete, when it's complete charging, or you can look it up on the app and see where it's at. The other thing we have is we have Bluetooth connectivity. So unlike some of our touring bikes that have a big infotainment, we're leveraging the rider's smartphone and the Harley-Davidson app. So
Smart idea.
Start up turn-by-turn navigation. Through that Bluetooth connection, you can see the next turn
on
information.
the
You can hear the audio instructions, and you can do certain things with your music. So you can have your Spotify or other streaming service, and you can use the hand controls to volume up, volume down, and skip the next song.
Right on.
So that's some of the Bluetooth connectivity that we built with the Harley-Davidson
Build it into
app.
the bike. Don't make customers put another thing on the handlebars.
Right.
So the less things you add to the handlebars, the better for everybody. Yeah. That's super cool. Yep.
We have added a USB-C port here as well, so that you can power your phone if you are doing turn-by-turn navigation. Obviously, regardless of which app you use, that's going to drain the battery pretty quick.
Of course it is. Yeah. Absolutely.
So we want you to still be charged up when you get there.
Well, I'm so sad I didn't get to feel the haptic heartbeat, but I'll make it my quest to feel a haptic heartbeat before I leave. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Cheers.
Now, is that on the real bike?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, seriously, that's.
Well, it was on the bike that was chained down because that was the only one that they were riding.
No, there was two of them. There were two live wires there. No, I mean that has to be a feature. Think about it. They want these guys to transition from a V-twin to an electric bike. And if you ride a Zero, there's no feeling. It's just smooth. It's just like you're gliding. But
and there's no sound.
There's no sound.
Well, it's like saying I want to transition from a knife to a gun to kill somebody.
Right.
You know, I mean, like you're not going to make your knife make gun sounds when you're stabbing somebody.
Well, apparently they are.
That's an odd analogy, but congratulations there, Steve.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, I couldn't think of anything. You know,
Here, have some bourbon.
And I would just say.
I thought that was a very good analogy.
Yeah, that's right. But it was interesting. So he got off of it, and then we got to see the Pan America and whatever the other thing is.
Whatever
in
it's
glass,
called.
and they were in glass. You could tell that everybody there thought that they probably weren't finished.
Well, all of the components, like the exhaust and everything, they're all generic pieces. They weren't you could look at those and be like, that's not a Harley-Davidson part. That's just a generic motorcycle part.
But I mean, like the Pan America in person wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like I thought it was going to be huge and gangly.
I thought it was pretty bad.
I mean, no, it wasn't. I have no interest in buying one, but like from the pictures that you saw in the magazines, online or whatever, it just looked like a giant. I thought it was going to be like a bagger touring bike that they.
Oh, it does look huge in pictures.
Yeah, but it wasn't that big. It was about the size of a BMW or something like that.
Adventure bike size.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. So
What is it based on? Like a Sportster chassis, or
I think it's complete. It looked like a Ducati kind of chassis. Like it looks
oh,
like
like
trellis
a
frame.
trellis frame
yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean it's definitely a ground up bike. I don't know what motors. Well, it's the same motor. They're I don't know enough about Harleys.
Some
I'm sure
V-twin,
Cam can tell us.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's one of the
I would
V-twin
assume.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I walked through the Harley display, but it was so crowded, and you couldn't even get near any of the bikes that I just decided,
But
whatever.
When we were by the Harley display, it was kind of interesting to see. So you have some of the guys in leather, like the guys that show up to a motorcycle show, not on a motorcycle, but they got the leather beanie on.
Have their Girl Scout vest on.
Yeah, the whole thing. Like they're all part of the same club. So they're rocking their vests. But a lot of those guys were looking at the electric thing going like, would you ever ride that? I'd never ride that. Like so like I don't know if they're going to hit their mark. Like the guys that like old Harleys aren't really going to be digging these new things.
Well, it does not fit the target market for Harley riders, I'll tell you that.
But it's the perfect
don't
bike
think
for
that's
them to go from one bar to the next bar to the next bar and go home.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it's not as though
But once they get off that bike and go into the bar, they'll get laughed at.
Well,
Because nobody heard them coming.
Right.
You're right. You can't hear the haptic feedback motor in the seat, the vibrator in the seat. But
How are they going to communicate? One guy's going, brrrr, and he's going to go.
I personally like the fact that the Zero's silent.
I do too.
I mean, I like it. There's no vibration. It's silent.
Well, you know what it is?
You're buying it because of that. You're not buying it to have. You're not. It's not. It's a motorcycle, but it's a totally different kind of motorcycle.
It's a different experience.
You nailed it. It's a completely different experience. It's like it feels familiar, but it's completely different. And it's so funny to see people. Even this year at Mid Ohio was the first time I spent a lot of time. Like when Phil was like, "Yeah, take it and go," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I went for a while. I spent about half an hour riding the thing around. It is such a different experience, and you can't not smile. Like it's because like every single time you hit the gas, there's no noise, and all of a sudden you're really fleeing through the air and you're going.
There's
fast.
no other motorcycle that I've ever ridden that I can be on dirt and just be totally confident to just give it a fistful of throttle and feel the back wheel start to spin. And it's like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
No other dirt bike that I've ridden has done that. It's just the Zero, and I mean it's a different experience. It's that.
But the thing is, by right, I have 11 or 12,000 miles on my Zero.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I love that thing, and I ride it all the time. But riding the Zero makes me love my vintage stuff, or every other bike I have, just as much. I mean, to me, it's not what you ride; it's the fact that you're riding. But I love my CB 175. I love my Honda. I mean, I love my Passport and my Super Cub and my Monkey because I ride those all the time. But that Zero makes me love those even more.
But you didn't even mention your PC800. There's no love given to the PC800, and I'm a little
Well, I have
taken
so
aback.
many. I can't list them all because we'll take
Well,
the
you
whole
can,
podcast.
and we'll be quiet.
Okay.
We're back.
No, but so let me ask you this. So since you have all those miles, you have all the miles on the Zero, right? Do you find yourself, so when you're on a vintage bike or something like that, you hear the motor, you hear this, you're listening to the brakes. When you're on that bike, do you find the entire, not just the riding experience, but like what you're seeing and hearing is a completely different experience? Like do you start paying attention to other stuff since there's no sound coming out of the bike?
Oh, he's always thinking about work.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty much, right?
Rivers of shit floating.
Well,
No, it's like I like the sound of a motor at Redline too. I like the sound of a wedge, like a Chrysler wedge head winding out. There's nothing less like an old Chrysler wedge just winding out. There's nothing that sounds like that. I don't know. People probably don't know what I'm talking about, but I would think that Nick probably knows, but there's just
no, I
a
don't
sound.
know. That's what I'm nodding my head to. I
it's
have
like
no
a wedge
idea what you're talking
salad.
about.
No, it's like everybody wants the Hemi.
Right.
But a 440 wedge was just about as good as a Hemi, and it sounds. They all sound great. And that CB 175. When you get to like Meckelfresh does it the best though, but you're going along, shifting through the gears, you hit redline and you're in top gear, and you're just like laying into it, and you get to that point, and it just hits like the right speed, and it just makes this noise that is like no other noise you've ever heard in your life, and it's just a sweet noise. But with this bike, it's the same thing. You're riding along, and there's a certain. I mean, you hear it's.
There's still
different. It's
noises.
just, there's noises. Yeah. It sounds like a VFD, but it always sounds the same almost the same frequency.
So you have all the miles on that bike. So like the biggest thing you hear when anybody talks about electric motorcycles is, I fear the range, right? But it's no different than having a gas tank, except for the time allotment of what it takes to fill it back up. So how long did it take you, and how many miles before you just were like, you didn't even think about it anymore? You just looked down, and you're, I got 50 miles or whatever. Like that wasn't
I probably rode to work a month, and then I knew that I would never get stranded. No matter what I did, I would be able to get to work and plug it in.
Yeah.
And I always have a spare vehicle around, so I knew I could always get home in case there was an emergency with the kids or something. So as soon as I knew I could get to work and get home, I had no issue. I mean, because what am I going to do?
So is that to say the best thing to do if you own a Zero and you're driving it to work is to have like 6 extra vehicles at the back end so you can come back just in case you got to plug it in for 8 hours?
That's my plan, but it might not be everybody else's plan.
And for 12,000 miles, it seems to have worked.
Yeah.
No, I've never been. I mean, Phil really drives his stuff more to the limit than I do. I mean,
But he's got 6,000 bikes.
Yeah, but I baby my vehicles a lot more, except for the Zero is probably the bike I beat on the most, because I think from a reliability standpoint and I've been working with electric motors for my entire career, and I mean almost my whole plant runs with electric motors and variable frequency drives, so I know the abuse they can take and the how long they last and what it takes to blow them up. So riding an electric motorcycle, to me, I know how durable it is. I know there's only a couple parts, and the only thing I worry about is if I get a stone kick underneath my belt.
What is that?
Pickle Rick.
Oh, Pickle Rick.
If I get a stone kick underneath my belt and it snaps the belt, then I'd be screwed because I'm not carrying an extra belt with me. But
then you coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, any motorcycle with chains, I mean, there's always
something. No, it's always something.
Yeah,
but
right.
I mean, if that's the only thing I have to worry about,
right.
I don't have to worry about throwing a rod. I don't have to worry about running out of gas. I don't have to worry about getting water in the gas. I don't have to worry about the breather blocking up. I don't have to worry about adjusting my valves. I don't have to worry about the 1,000 other things I worry about with an internal combustion engine.
Right. And you have traction control and ABS and all the other stuff.
I don't think mine has traction control, but I do have ABS, and the ABS is very conservative. I mean, sometimes I wish it wasn't there because you think it starts doing the ABS thing way too early. I mean, before you think you're in trouble.
And what was your comment about the all-electric Hummer?
Oh.
Has a 6,000-pound battery and a 5-mile range.
That's
beautiful.
There's another company that just came out with an electric pickup truck, and they're nailing every social media thing you go on right now. And it's very boxy, and it's making fun of Elon Musk's new one, saying this is a real truck, right? And it has something like a 250-mile range and all this stuff, and something like 600 foot-pounds of torque, or I mean, whatever, some ridiculous thing. But the price is $135,000 for the base model.
You should get two.
Exactly. But they're trying to say, this is a great work truck, it's a great thing, and all this other stuff, and I just don't see it happening. Oh, okay. So one of the things that we're doing, and the reason that Phil's not here is because he's out visiting Rand with Mecklefresh, and it's Mecklefresh's birthday. And so we're going to call him and try to get him and get his take on it.
What time is it right now?
It is...
Hey, I want to make an additional comment about the motorcycle show just to correct some information that I had gotten. So I was walking around, and I've said on the podcast a couple of times I'd love to go to Vietnam and travel. And there was a lady there that had a booth for traveling in Thailand. And so I was pretty excited, and I picked up one of her brochures, and I said, well, how much is it? And she says a 9-day trip.
Oh, yeah.
Including bike rental, room, and all your meals is $1,000. And I said, no, what? It can't be.
Yeah.
It cannot be $1,000. And she said, yes, it's $1,000. Now, I will say this. She was Taiwanese, and she's only over here for the motorcycle show. So I grabbed one of her brochures. Next day, I got up and I looked it up. Oh, no, it's not $1,000. it's $4,000 for the 9 days, 39 something or other. So it's $4,000, and that's a correction. So I actually sent the guy who runs it. He's an Americano, and I sent him a little email. I said, you know what? Just so you know, in Cleveland, this young lady, her name is Candy. She's doing the best she can, but she's quoting incorrect prices by a factor of 4. So just so you know. Anyhow,
did he write back?
No. Well,
he said I told her to do that.
You're right.
Well, no, but why would she say? I mean, what was the 1,000? Just it's completely wrong.
I think what she was trying to say is it's $1,000 off. Oh. I think it's normally like 4,700, and now it's 3,900 or something like that. So I think that's where she got confused. So I was walking around telling a lot of people, hey, they're doing this thing in Thailand for $1,000, and at $1,000, even really, to be honest with you, I think at $39.95,
a pretty good deal for 9 days.
Yeah, for 9 days with either a BMW or I forget what the other one was, but they're quality bikes. At least on the brochure, they look like quality bikes. There's a lot of days and a lot of pluses to the whole thing.
Does that include insurance and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
But when you get down there, you get a KTM 390.
Well, but the other thing is they're gonna fly you in on one of those Turkish airlines that will absolutely break into 3 pieces upon landing. So, and 82% of the people survive. So,
well, how much is a plane ticket? How much is a plane ticket to Taiwan or wherever?
I thought it was $1,600 or something like that. I looked it up.
So you're talking about a
round trip though. That's round trip.
Well, you're still a $7,000 trip at that point.
Yeah, but if you take an outside seat on the wing or something like that, you might save a couple of bucks. I don't know.
Sure. Or you take one of the coronavirus planes.
Wear a mask.
Yeah, those are empty right now.
Yeah, right.
They're looking for people.
They're looking for people.
Fill the seats.
So as we wait for Hoff to come back, what is this thing?
That's a RC car.
Okay.
It's not motorcycle related at all.
All right, well, we'll leave it at that. Sounds good.
All
right, Hoff.
wait for me to come back?
Because you got the phone. We got to call Phil.
Oh.
We're going to find
Is
out.
he out of his meeting?
He said it's a good time to call. So
Okay.
bust that sucker out.
Geez, you're using his piece of shit phone?
His was loud.
Yours.
Oh, fuck you.
Yours
The
is from
dial.
1990. You have like the bag phone. Okay, let me see here.
He can't even see. Let's see. Phil Gates.
What's his last name? What's his name?
It's going to take 20 minutes for Hoffert to figure this shit out.
Hey, I didn't plan on. Okay, here we go. Where are we putting this thing?
Hold it up to the
mic.
Put it on speaker. Yeah. We couldn't figure out any
Pop
better
says,
way.
Oh
to
yeah,
do it.
yeah, speaker. That's right.
So who's calling who? So yeah, exactly. Who's the calling? Yeah, I guess Cleveland Moto is calling us right now.
Cleveland
And
Moto.
So Cleveland Moto. We're already recording our end.
Uh-oh.
Are you guys recording on your end?
Oh yeah.
Yes, we are.
Fantastic. Let me get some audio up for you guys. Make sure you sound all awesome. All right. Yeah. So fantastic. So who is in attendance tonight?
Well, we got Chris Smith.
Dan Crockett.
Excellent.
Dan's here.
The non-drunk Steve Hoffert.
I thought we were doing the introductions again.
I love you too.
Nick DeVito.
Nick is here. And me.
Fantastic. Is it his left?
Sleepy. And that
All right. Very cool.
that rounds us out.
Cool. Excellent. So how long have you guys been recording?
2 hours.
Okay, good. Yeah, fantastic. You got an early start then, I see.
And we're back.
So what's going on out in?
I gotta say, I just wish that more of you guys could be here because it is a fantastic motorcycle show and a really good time even beyond that.
Well,
Yeah.
send us tickets and we'll be out tomorrow.
There you go. Perfect. A couple of the interesting highlights about the show so far is we were able to accidentally meet the entire technical crew of Zero Electric Motorcycle.
Oh, no kidding.
So all the people that are responsible for actually programming the Bosch traction control system that's on this SRF motorcycle and the guys that are research and development nerds for Zero, we ran into all of them down by the dirt track. So they're going to have 0 electric motorcycles.
Like 4 different bikes.
Yeah, they said 5 total of just zeros plus an Alta. And they're going to be racing those on the dirt tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's cool.
And what was
It's
the
really neat.
what was the Harley thing that you guys were checking out?
So that was last night, and Harley-Davidson was introducing an independent filmmaker who had built a film called Fast and Left. And it's all about flat track racing, featuring some of these older guys who've been flat track racing since the 60s. And they've got, the one guy was named,
Bull Taco Bob.
Bull Taco Bob. And, we were just, brilliant, super cool. Everything from old two-strokes, 250cc two-strokes, up till modern, all the new Indian FTRs.
Yeah. And little kids, obviously various different classes. I think they had even the brand of the Indian 1200s or whatever, which looks like a badass bike.
Yeah.
Just hearing those start coming up, gritting off the line, like, wow.
It was fun because a lot of it was grassroots motorsports, and a lot of it was people, little children, all the way up to 70-some-year-old men riding around, going, to these quarter-mile ovals that are out in the middle of the country, and these cats are showing up and hot booting it, like making a steel boot. And the one guy, George's Hot Boots, he's been making flat track boots for like 50 years. Hot shoes. He shows up with a school bus and a grinder and a welder, and he'll custom build you a metal boot for your left foot.
Wow.
So super cool. Yeah.
And
We had talked a lot about it being a gentleman's sport, liking it to yacht racing, where everybody behaves, plays by the rules, fun, fair game.
Yeah. And like if you break down, somebody else will loan you parts to get your bike back up because they'd rather have you racing than beat you.
Which I think, though, is a fairly common theme in a lot of racing. From mud bogging to whatever you do. We might be bitter rivals, but if I see you need something, I want to make sure you're in the game because I want you to be there so I can beat your ass.
Right. If you're not there, I can't beat your ass. It's not delicious if I can't beat you in person.
Okay, from a person who does race or has raced yachts, those guys are a bunch of assholes. So it sounds like the flat trackers are a way better group of guys than those guys.
What yacht racing should be, I'm sure it's much different. Yeah.
Oh, yacht racing is they raise their little flags and just cry. So
So that was.
You took my air. You cut in front of you. You taxed me. You should have let me tax.
I'm sorry, there wasn't enough wind for both of us.
Yeah.
What I can tell you about the one show that I really like is they've got it all in one building now. So it's in something like we would call a convocation center or something like that. And bikes are everywhere. Everywhere you go, there's another badass, kick-ass motorcycle.
Much different than the IX Center, where you're all in one big room with 3 other shows going on.
Yeah.
This is one big room with a little, like a small stadium that they have now laid down the dirt for the track, and then several ante-rooms where they have various special exhibits for like vintage bikes. They had one where it was a rollout from Indian, like their big media press release, little, dog and pony show.
Yeah, and the builds are gorgeous. The custom builds are absolutely fantastic. There's the whole, if you guys are familiar with, in the 70s, there was not just Yamaha motorcycles, but there was what was called the Yamaha, which was the custom-built van in Yamaha race livery.
oh yeah.
And then there was a pickup truck, a Toyota pickup truck that went with it.
Yep.
And there's a guy here who has the full kit. Like he's got the van, he's got the pickup truck, he's got the dirt bikes to go in the back. It looks like that Playboy magazine ad from the 70s has just been recreated here.
Or like the full-size Hot Wheels.
Yes,
Yamaha set.
it's really badass.
Awesome. So
super cool.
What are you guys drinking tonight?
Not much.
Well, we got a little Woodford Reserve.
Whoa! I don't like to hear that. That doesn't sound good at all.
No, there's drinking.
No, we
going
got
on.
some Woodford Reserve, and we got some Fatheads beer.
This will be a good time, Phil. This will be a good time, Phil, for you to tell them what's off limits in the,
Yeah, right.
No finding the case of Stranahan.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm drinking near beer.
Literally.
Literally.
For the record, Hofford is not drinking tonight, and I think we need to have like a vote with our listeners and see if they ever want to have Hoffert and not drinking.
We got
We
Professor.
should do a poll to see if they want me to drink or not to drink, and I'll do whatever they say.
Yeah, sober at Hofford is not that much fun.
Well, we've had
we've had a whole lot of people that have been chirping in both on our Patreon forum and on our ClevelandMoto at gmail.com. And a lot of people have been chiming in saying that they absolutely love Grumpy Sewer Guy.
Oh my God.
So,
As they should.
Trending right now.
So the $1 million question for today is, has there been a Rand sighting?
No, there has not been a Rand sighting. We've had no communication from Rand. However, we believe that tomorrow will be Rand o'clock. We believe that because he does live an hour away from the event, tomorrow will be go time for Rand.
Do you guys have enough money to bail him out if you need to?
No, we don't. And because we are guests in his fair city, he will have to rot. Bail us out. Yeah. The bailing out always is the job of the person who lives there. The traveler always gets bailed out for free. And I believe the rules of the road mandate that no reciprocity is ever expected. We can get away with it. Totally no out-of-pocket expenses.
All right.
So what is on your agenda for tonight? After you guys went to Chicken and Guns, and then the strip club. What's next?
Well, I think that we're doing a bad job by selling the Acropolis short as a strip club. I think that it's one of the better Portland eateries. I think that it might be the official best steakhouse in Portland.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I thought they served seafood.
With the addition of 3 naked women, literally you have to move your plate of steak out of the way so they can rub their naked body on you.
Oh.
So they can put one leg over each shoulder.
Yeah, that's true.
And gyrate their hips up and down under your nose.
So you guys had tacos and not steak.
We did decide to have.
If it wasn't against the law to touch them, I would have had a taco.
It was a very once in a lifetime experience for me, and that's saying a lot.
Do they serve that with béarnaise sauce?
There's always, they open at 7. We can get breakfast.
Yeah, they open at 7 a.m.
The 10-egg omelet is waiting for us.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They have a 10-egg
omelet.
Jeez.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a crazy. I think the whole thing is just insane. I've never been to anywhere like this in my life.
At one point, dollar bills were being folded into paper airplanes and thrown.
And I may have accidentally taken out
all fun and games until
somebody loses an eye. I threw a paper airplane into a stripper's eyeball.
It looked like she was wearing glasses. It was only later that we learned they had no lenses.
Yeah, her glasses were just to make her look like dorky. They didn't have any actual lenses in them. So when I shot it into her eyeball, Renee and I play this game with straws. Like you eat dinner and you shoot the straw at each other. And if you ask her, she'll tell you that one time I shot one right into her eye and it killed her, and she only survived by the.
She failed to engage safety squints.
She did not engage with safety squints at all. And consequently, but yeah. So I did hit a stripper in the eyeball with a paper airplane made out of a dollar bill.
Well, that's okay, because that's a workers' comp claim.
You don't even want to know what we did with the paper football.
The paper 50 came up a bullet.
Right, yeah. The paper football, all I can say is field goal.
So Mac, is your birthday going well then? Is this probably the best situation you could have for your week of a birthday?
This is a very optimal situation.
The thing is, we didn't even tell the ladies at the strip club that it was his birthday, and we probably should have.
We should have played that to a more maximum effect. We'll do that tomorrow.
At breakfast.
Our accommodations are nice. We had a very easy morning. Woke up, did a swim in the pool.
Yeah.
Did the hot tub, soaked. It was very nice.
It's a very good example of motorcycle event living.
Yeah.
Do biker shit, and that's what we're doing. It's really cool. I do recommend it. Anybody who wants to see a really good motorcycle show, this is an example of a really, really good motorcycle show.
Is there anybody from the East Coast at that show, or is it mostly West Coast?
I've seen nobody from the East Coast. Everybody we've talked to has been West Coast. And, the guys from Fox Motorcycle Shocks, because, Fox Motorcycle Shocks, when I was a kid, they were the coolest thing you could have on your bike. On your dirt bike.
Right.
And then they just stopped doing that. And then they started doing Fox shocks for off-road cars, for trucks and Volkswagens and stuff like that.
And mountain bikes.
And so now they're trying to get back into the motorcycle industry. So they've got a nice display here of the original Mako, of Bill, like the guy who was the inventor of Fox Racing Shocks. His original Mako is here on display. Beautiful motorcycles here on display. Just some of the stuff is super creative, and it's hard to hate it. And it's not just all one flavor. It is definitely not a majority of Harley-Davidson. There's CX500s that are the nicest. I saw a CC550 today that was.
I feel like it's more akin to like the fuel show.
I do.
Where it's all custom bikes. Custom bikes. There are really, aside from India, Harley, there are no manufacturers here represented. Zero, but even Zero just had a couple bikes.
Zero's only got 2 bikes just sitting in a corner. Nobody's even built a booth around it. And the real deal is that everybody's here to get their bikes on the dirt. So everybody wants to put their bikes on the dirt track and ride on the dirt track.
I did try to kill myself on an electric bicycle, which thankfully I failed. But it was pretty fun.
John is still here.
I did they had a little thing set up with a tippy, the teeter-totter and the whoop-de-doo. I teetered the totter and I whooped the do.
And they had a quarter pipe set up too, and I don't blame him for not trying the quarter pipe.
I nibbled on it a little bit, but I didn't go big or go home.
What's the ratio of brown leather to other things on the bikes?
That's a good question.
Excellent question. What I would say is there is a lot of brown leather on the motorcycles. There's a lot of brown leather diamond stitched seats, quite a few. There's a remarkable amount of gorgeous chrome layered onto just a shittily hammered together gas tank. So like somebody will have a gas tank that's like really wavy gravy and looks like crap, and you could tell they just got it back from the chrome platers after just dipping it in chrome.
I want this tank chrome.
Right.
But what I didn't understand is that you can't use Bondo before you chrome it.
Exactly.
Just chrome it.
Yeah. But there's also a lot of patina seems to be a big thing this year. So there's a lot of fucking bikes that are original 1972, that Yamaha TT500 gas tank we saw.
Yeah.
It was a complete, just an alloy tank with a couple of orange stripes on it that probably looked like shit in 78. And it still looks like shit today, but they put it on a $20,000 bill.
Yeah, they streetified it, put a nice,
swing arm on it.
Swing arm, front suspension, everything off something else. And pretty cool bike.
Yep.
Well, every one of the bikes out on that floor, aside from View, there was a couple that I didn't really care for.
Most of the stuff out there is absolutely just like you could sit and stare at a single motorcycle for an hour and a half and pick up small details.
If they were in the Guggenheim, you wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah,
So
it's really cool. Good show.
Last
fun.
And I was interested in the Zero custom bikes. So they have, what was there, probably 4 or 5?
They had 5 or 6 custom Zeros. They had the Pikes Peak race bikes. The bike that actually did Pikes Peak was there. They also have several SXs with various different dirt tracker bodywork kits on them.
Yeah, one of them is in carbon fiber.
Yep, full carbon fiber, yeah. So really freaking cool stuff that you don't see around because they're all custom. And the West Coast is where so many of these customs get built. And this is, coming to the one show is a big thing for these guys.
So, Phil, last year and everything, a lot of guys were doing scrambler customs and everything. Is that still the direction people are going, or what? Yeah. Is there a new direction that's taken?
You're absolutely right. That carries over. So we saw an atrocious Harley-Davidson today that was probably a Super Glide that had a 10-over front end on it, jacked up into the moon, but then was a scrambler.
It looks like you would have to have little small step ladders.
Yeah, to get up on the thing. So it's
that
weird.
Might have actually been something period, though.
No,
somebody just
too new. But there were
no scratches on it.
Yeah, there were no scratches on it. It was a brand new build. But there does seem to be this, there was this ridiculous thing of the high boy chopper thing that Harley-Davidson had kind of started and leaned into with the 72, where the gas tank, the Sportster gas tank, the peanut gas tank was elevated like 2 or 3 inches, and the bike was kind of sitting a little higher than it should be. That has gotten a little out of control now. So the bikes are getting to the point where, like, when we were kids and we used to watch Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch, and it was like this bike had the foot pegs on the bike were like 6 feet in the fucking air. And so that's kind of happening now. So it's not as crazy as a Japanese Bosozuku, but it's super weird to like get onto a motorcycle and have your feet be 3 feet off the ground. And then have a set of not necessarily ape hangers, but like T-bars that are 16 inches tall. So it makes for just a dopey looking riding position. And I'm sure there's a name for it. Maybe tomorrow we'll figure it out, because we are in the self-anointed coolest motorcycle show in America. Okay.
All right.
So this is the cool place. I mean, if you want to buy artisanal mustache wax, this is where you buy it.
Yeah, I was going to say, Portland's pretty good for beard. There's that should fit right in here.
Pick me up a fucking set of beard oil or something then while you guys are there.
Dude, it is just obscene. We found a picture of you on a beer can today.
It was perfect. It was cinch 100%.
And what's funny about that is somebody says, you've made it big when you end up on a milk cart. You ended up on a beer can.
Yeah.
Very perfect. Yeah.
Thank you.
Completely appropriate.
Yeah. Steve, Cinch, one of the things they had out the door was like a Harley-Davidson Survey car, but it was set up to haul another bike. So they had this, all it was a front wheel chop mounted to the back of it. I'm seeing something like this in your picture on the back of your brand new Big Red from Mid-Ohio.
Yes, I agree.
Doesn't get any easier. Super cool.
I mean, you said you already have a hitch point that'll handle 200 or 800 pounds.
Yep. Bring it home.
If you could go ahead and throw that on the back of it, it would be the perfect Mid-Ohio bike hauler.
Take a picture.
There's a whole lot of creativity going on out here, and couldn't be happier with what we're seeing, at the event. Oh, sorry, I just completely cropped us at Knuckle Fresh.
Oh, we're in a tiny room with a big bar.
So,
that's my job, dude.
So what is your schedule for the rest of the weekend?
We're going to do more of this tomorrow. There's some local Portland haunts. There's some stuff we want to hit. Some things on the checklist, like the Alibi and a few other things that we absolutely must do while we're in Portland. Tomorrow, we know that the guys from the Motorcycles and Misfits are going to be arriving, so we're going to hook up with them. We'll be doing some more recording with those guys and talking to a few of the vendors and local talent out on the floor.
Awesome. Have you met anybody that knows who you guys are?
Yes, we have. And that was rather surprising, considering that this is today's the half day. Today's the late day, so the show doesn't really open until after 5 p.m. And
people were pouring in as we found our way into this room.
Right. Yeah, it's filling up real fast, so that's great. We are meeting people who are aware of the podcast. We're meeting people that are aware of the team. That's super great. And again, seeing all the guys from Zero, that was a huge plus. So we love those guys.
Awesome.
All righty.
Couldn't say enough about it.
So what was your topic for this evening's podcast?
We did a bit of a review of the IMS show so that we could get that done, and we can go and show some of the stuff that we filmed. And, we talked about some of that, and most of the people's disappointment in most of the new bikes and how awesome the Moto Compo stood out among the whole show.
Is there anything you guys want to say about the IMS show?
Yeah.
There is a Moto Compo here, and it's in a row of a vintage Italjet Kit Kat, a modern Italjet Kit Kat, modern being 80s, and then a couple of other folding bikes. But I think there's a row of, 6 different folding motor scooters here, and there's a Moto Compo among them. So that's part of the one show that's kind of cool.
I thought those were race bikes.
Yeah, they're going out on the track, aren't they? I don't know. It was hard to tell.
Yeah, it looked like the same.
Oh, that Moto Compo's not going on the track, man. But there was a whole run. There's a whole lot of weird equipment that's going to end up on the dirt.
Is there a Mama Tried thing? Are they doing boonie bike racing or anything like that?
So they are, yeah. They're absolutely, and they've got classes set up for that. And they have, because Portland is just mad for this, they've had this stuff completely booked now for months in advance. And it's Roland Sands' team came in, and the team from Roland Sands came in and laid out the dirt, set up the track. So it's going to be tight. It's much smaller than an 8. So it's going to be the same track like you were on, except this is proper dirt.
Not Coca-Cola.
Yeah, it's St. Dr. Pepper. This is looks like about a 14-inch deep dirt. It's going to be rowdy.
They're trying to get it packed down. I don't know why there's not a steamroller out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
Phil.
it's pretty cool.
Hey, Phil. How many Harley-Davidson LiveWires are going to be out there with the Zeros tomorrow?
Oh, I don't think there will be a single one. I've not seen a live wire since we've entered the property. It is conspicuous in its absence. Even last night at the Harley-Davidson event, there was no mention. But last night really was a flat track.
I wouldn't necessarily call that a Harley.
Do they have a V-twin live wire?
They were the icons of vintage Harley-Davidson racing.
Right.
They're both their road bikes and their flat track bikes were there. And but nothing new, and definitely not a live wire.
Right, definitely not live wire. Yeah, Zero does have a very strong presence here. I've seen nothing in the way of Harley-Davidson electric. So.
All right.
Yeah, so it's been, but it's so far there's more show than you can chew on in one day.
How are the tiki drinks out there?
Surprising out here is, it's probably 55, 60 degrees, and there's a little light mist of rain, which I'm sure is entirely normal for here. But we only, so far, I've counted 2 sidecar rig and 1 motorcycle.
And there was 1 Indian at the strip club, so there was like 1 Indian bagger at the strip club.
This was a day where in Cleveland, there would be bikes, like people would be digging their bikes up for the chance to go for a ride, but it's pretty much, there's no bikes here. Yeah, and no rust. Apparently they don't use salt.
Yeah, strangest thing, we've been trying to find evidence of rust on vehicles. We can't find rust on anything out here.
But there's also not a lot of old vehicles, which is kind of weird. You'd think, well, if you don't use rust, things aren't rotten.
We keep around, but it's a different thing for us. I mean, this whole biosphere, this whole area is totally different than the Cleveland experience.
If you got out to Corvallis, Oregon is where all the old vehicles are. That's where the old hippies went and never left.
Yeah, and that's definitely true. Portland is a thing. So we're not going to get on to a civics lesson regarding Portland, but it is a totally kind of different experience in Cleveland, and so far it's been excellent. I mean, our hotel room is in what I would kindly describe as a light industrial area, but it's got a 24-hour pool and hot tub, and the breakfast is great, and it's one of those places that for under $100 you get everything you need.
The homeless camps are pretty impressive.
Yeah, the homeless camps under the bridges are quite impressive. It looks like people decided, hey, let's go camping in the city, and then stayed.
Yeah.
And they've just systematically hardened and over-hardened their camp, like multi-tent, multi-floor. Go ahead.
I was going to say the important thing here is, so with the RAND situation, are you going to record something and we're going to have an addendum, or is this going to be an entire RAND and you guys podcast that we're going to follow up with after this?
Oh, this may have to be a Patreon bonus episode.
Ah, very nice.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're recording with the R2 now, so
okay.
Who knows how this works out.
Right. I figured it's better to run the R2 than not run the R2.
Of course.
When we get our hands on Rand, once we latch into him, and once we latch into the Misfits, and then I'm sure that you know how it is when we get our crew together, there will end up being one of these, gang up podcasts at some point. So
just record everything, bring it home, and we'll edit it into something awesome.
That's what I figured. Yeah, I just figured we're just going to record every damn thing.
Yep.
So, yeah, super cool, man.
All right. Well, we're glad you're having fun. Johnny Mac.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, sir.
Happy birthday, big fella.
May you puke into the pool and wake up in the hot tub.
Hell yes. And on that note, guys, remember to ride fast and take chances.
Ba, 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 ba.